Right as I walked up on another arrowhead, my buddy Derek see it. Show it to y'all.
Oh.
See it yet?
Yeah.
Another snap base. It's in pretty rough shape, but you know, it's all good. My third point of the day. Just getting my fingers around this. All right, that's what we like. Look at him, he's running up there trying to get all the arrowheads before I get up there. That's all right, I'm coming. I'm right behind you, brother. All right, Derek's got another one. Let's go see what he's got. Try not to walk over a big nice dovetail or something before I get to him. Heartbreak Creek never fails. Try not to step over an arrowhead getting to you, man. Just be patient. Oh my goodness gracious me, oh my. Hold up, brother. All right, pick it up out of there. Oh wow. Look at that. Tip gone. Maybe a little of that, maybe a little bit of the wing, not much. Tip for sure. Wow, let's get a picture of it. All right, hold it up a little bit straighter. There we go, something like that. All right, flipper. Oh, gone it. It's okay. We haven't been here 35, 40 minutes. We're having this much luck. We just had 4 inches of rain 3 days ago. So we're on them. Definitely on them. Here we go again. Derek's done found another one. Yeah, we've been walking about I don't know, 30, 45 minutes since the last one. And look at this. Don't pick it up yet, man. Oh my goodness, it's a snap base and it's beautiful. Right. Okay, pick it up on out of there, brother. Oh, wow. Look at that. Look at that. Amazing. That's 3.5 inches long. Look at that wing on it. Incredible. Heartbreak is being so good to us today. I'm liable to run out of camera battery, but we're gonna keep going. All right, here's another one. Nice little triangle. Really nice colors. Oh yeah, let me get a picture of that. All right, flip it over one for me. Nice. We are kicking butt today, guys, and we still got a long way to go.
Want that one?
Oh, do I want it?
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah, brother. Thank you. Okay, we're on our way out. We've been walking forever. Derek's just walked up on this here. Nice little drill. All right, pick that up, bro. Oh, doggone it. One nick on it. Oh, man. Doggone it. That's nice. Still pretty nice. Still got a long way to go. On we go. Morning, guys and gals. Welcome to my channel, Inhumanoids with Bart and Nunley. That's me. Sitting right now in the largest expanse of woods on Highway 1078 North, Henderson, Kentucky. A couple of summers ago, right on the other side of this, on 1078, my wife and some other motorists saw some animal run out in front of their car, and had no clue what it was. She said it was as tall as the car and had spots on it. So she didn't see a head or a tail. So it's been raining for a week. It's the first shot of sunlight we saw in a long time, so I thought I'd come over here and read this email to you guys. This is from Melissa Coynan. Now, she sent me in her first email months ago, and I read it to you guys. She said she had much more to share if we were interested in hearing it, and we are, of course. So just one second, let me get this pulled up and I'll share this with you guys. Okay, this is a really, really long message, so you guys bear with me. I'm not a public speaker, that's why I'm a writer, but I really appreciate Melissa Coynan sending these messages in to me, and apologize for taking so long to read it. Here we go. Voices on the Mountain. This is about the few scarier times and lights I've experienced with the Sasquatch on Mount St. Helens. Oddly enough, in the last 10 years I have seen lights only 3 times. The last 2 being just this year, summer of 2022. So let me begin with those. The first time this year I was camping up near the tourist places, not far from Cougar Park, where the climbers camp and start their climb up to the crater. I want to mention this is not my usual campsite. It's a nice spot. Sasquatch do come around, but I don't think they are the same as the ones in my usual camp, which is further east and lower altitude. I was camping with 2 of my grandsons, ages 18 and 10, and my border collie. I am lucky, or my dog is smart, because I have never had a problem with her going ballistic, as she does when humans or literally anything come near me or mine. Like, I never found a place to sit down here, everything's soaking wet. One time she barked when one must have come up to the front window while she was awake. She always goes to the tent early, not long after dark, and she sleeps. Excuse me. At home, she always waits for me no matter how late it may get. So this night the boys stayed up playing cards until late. I had gone to the tent. Now they had heard nothing while playing cards. I was sleeping when they came in. I always record every night, so I know how this went. Dominic, the younger of the 2, was saying he keeps hearing a whipping sound, like someone with a long, thin branch just behind our tent. He told his brother this at least 3 times in 15 minutes. Then he was getting scared. They finally woke me up, and then I heard it too. It was just behind the tent. I've heard what I always figured was Sasquatch near my tent hundreds of times in the last 10 years. But there was a terrible smell from this one. And with that whipping sound came a menacing feeling I could actually feel. But the dog was quiet, the tent undisturbed, so I put the headphones on and listened to the recorder for a while. A side note, frankly I may have been quite scared at the time, but for the moment I played it off as no big deal yet. And then when I closed my eyes, the weirdest thing happened. I saw a bright light which engulfed me. It gave me a sense of peace. I did open my eyes to make sure there was no light. It was inside my head. I do believe someone has been looking out for me, which is why I've had so many experiences with no harm done. I then drifted off to sleep. Maybe an hour later, I woke up with Dominic moaning, tossing, and groaning in his sleep. He then wakes up saying his stomach hurts really bad and that terrible smell is now horribly putrid and strong enough to make it hard to breathe. Enough is enough. With much loud scolding towards Mr. Stinkman outside, I proceeded to get up, turn flashlights on, shoes on, etc. Okay, actually I was downright bitching at it. I figured he used some infrasound or something to hurt my grandson. I got out of the tent to fix some chamomile tea for Dominic and build up the fire, turn on the lantern, etc. I could very well have been covering terror with annoyance, but it keeps me clear-headed and calmer than in fright. No lights were seen during this camp trip, but this is background as to my experience with the creatures so far at this seldom used campsite. The next week I had my granddaughter with me. She is 13 and as usual slept through the whole thing. I also have Nico the dog with us. We are at the same campsite from the above story. Again, we are in the tent, nighttime. She is sleeping, I'm reading, and the recorder is in the window recording, not 2 feet from my head. The night before and this night also, something I think Sasquatch keeps messing with my recorder. I hear it sliding up the window screen across the window screen. This makes a terrible racket when the recording is listened to. It creates a very loud static scratching which hurts my ears. No matter how many times I told them to stop, it didn't last. They would come right back to it. Finally I said, okay, if they want it so bad, just give it to them. I put that recorder, a Zoom H1N, outside the front door. Now when a button is pushed or the recorder is moved, a backlight comes on the small screen in front. It goes off after a bit by itself. I saw the light turn off after I put it outside. I turned off my flashlight, laid there and listened. After 15 minutes of nothing, I noticed a light coming in through the side wall of my tent. Oh yay, I was excited. I watched that light get brighter as it seemed to be in the hands of someone walking up. In my head were visions of them showing the family, chit-chatting excitedly, all being recorded. Anticipation, I was just giddy. I did not, however, listen until I got home, which is the normal. I saw that light walk all the way up to the front of my tent. 10 minutes later, I retrieved the recorder, put it back in the back window, and went to sleep with no more scratching on the screen. Well, when I was listening to that particular recording, I found that recorder was never even touched. What? No one touched it? When I hold the recorder when it's recording, just moving my hand is so loud. Moving the recorder is very loud. Obnoxious sounds it makes. So I know for a fact the recorder was not touched. So what was that like? I don't know. My second experience happened this last summer in my usual favorite campsite. This is the one with this family of Sasquatches. I've seen young ones in my camp a couple times and little baby footprints once. This is the place I have had the most exciting times in my life. On the east side of the mountain, remote and away from people. But it has been discovered by others recently and busy on weekends in the last 2 years. All the fun times I've had. Such very convincing fun times have happened here. This is where I had been wooed into thinking the world is the way I thought it was. Before I heard the scary stories or missing 411, and before I could think of them being anything but flesh and blood endangered species. This was late in the summer, just last August 2022, Dominic, Nico, the dog, and I. Again, it is nighttime and we are in our tent. Dominic is sleeping. I'm reading when I hear footsteps walking in our direction. With no other campers around, and the many times this has happened, this is normal Sasquatch behavior. I keep reading until I notice a soft glow on the door side of the wall tent. On the door side wall of the tent. Excuse me. Very odd. So I put the book down, turned off the flashlight. Yes, indeed, there is a distinct light shine on the wall. It stayed in one place, looked almost like a dim flashlight. It's round with a definite circle edge and a bit dim in the center. So I put the headphones on to listen. Definitely steady footsteps, not really sneaking, but slow and steady footsteps were getting closer. Now I apologize, I'm not that far away from civilization, so you might hear sounds of cars, lawnmowers, whatever. So I apologize for that. Airplanes, all that stuff. And Harley Davidsons, which, like I say, baskets just beyond the trees. So I think, what in the world? The dog is quiet. It's not people. I then took the headphones off so I could hear how far they really are not amplified. And unbeknownst to me at the time, I fell asleep listening. I didn't realize it then, but listening to that night and recording later, there is a quiet 20 to 30 minutes when my breathing is deep and steady, and I'm obviously sleeping. When footsteps are heard again, they are very close. The close, loud footsteps must have woke me up when I thought I was awake the whole time. I know that light was still shining on the wall from outside. It had gotten bigger as the steps came closer. I'm feeling some fear begin to build up due to the strangeness of all this. I listened while they walked right up to the recorder in the back window of my tent. There it stood just 2 feet from my head, and the light is still there, shining a bigger but not brighter circle of light. Now I'm scared. I laid there with my eyes closed, now that they are probably looking in the tent. I lay there listening for the footsteps to walk away. They don't. At some point, I know my eyes were closed. I remembered to focus and see what I can smell. So I inhaled deeply through my nose. I smelled smoke. Wood smoke. The strongest I've ever smelled in my life. I am so used to that smell, I kind of like it. But this is so strong, I can't imagine how someone would ever smell like smoke as heavy and strong as this. Immediately, I think of my campfire. But there's nothing I can do at the moment. I'm not moving now. We'll have to wait. So I wait for the steps walking away that never come. I notice that light on the wall is gone maybe 20 minutes later. So I brave up to check the fire. It was out, so I built it up, turned the lantern on, and had some hot chocolate and waited for the brightening sky of dawn's approach to go back to bed. When listening to that night on the recorder, I never heard any footsteps leave, even though this was August with everything dry. When it walked up to my tent, it was noisy enough to wake me up. Just weird. I do need to come clean, and shamed as I am to say it, there was a burn ban at the time. Yes, I feel much guilt and will never do that again. The guilt and the fact that I could have started a forest fire weighs too heavy. It's not worth it. We are right now getting smoke pollution from a forest fire in Washington. Oregon has an immense fire right now too. This is some thoughts I had on the Sasquatch on Mount St. Helens. I'm a 58-year-old wife and grandmother. My name is Melissa and I live in Northwest Oregon. I've always loved the outdoors, always been an outside girl, but I didn't get the chance to spend the time I wanted to learn and explore the forest until 7 to 8 years ago due to responsibilities. I now spend as much time as possible in the forest of Mount St. Helens during the summer months. About 9 or 10 years ago, I replaced my obsession with rocks for Sasquatch research. Not intentionally. I didn't know they were real, and I didn't believe in Sasquatch, but it was interesting to me. So I read, listened, and went out to see what I could see for myself. I did hear a long call one night while camped with my husband on the southwest side of the mountain. Today I can say I'm pretty sure that was a Sasquatch. I did not know it at the time, but my first day in that spot that came to be my favorite, they made themselves heard right away. I have many good times to tell about, but today I would like to discuss the possibility of different types of these forest people I've heard others mention. The first summer I spent at this spot on the mountain was the summer of 2013. It was a drought year. No campfires allowed from early May through sometime after the beginning of hunting season, which is when I split. Done for the season, I go home. Let the hunters have it. No one wants to camp with no campfire, so the entire area where I go was deserted that year. Naively, I camped alone or with a grandson or two. For protection, I had a puny .32 revolver, a fillet knife, and an air horn. Frankly, if there were people around, I probably would have brought the bigger gun with me a lot sooner than I did. But at the start, I was ill-equipped to defend if I had to. I would go to sleep in my tent with all the windows zipped down in order to show any Sasquatch, if they really are, that I was harmless, so that I am peaceful and nature-loving. They like these qualities, I heard. So between having no campfire, leaving myself in the open to satisfy any of their curiosity, and bringing a youngster of my own with me, all worked together for success for me. I came to learn only the young Sasquatch come up from the creek to visit my camp. I hear the adults down at the creek smashing rocks. I have no idea what they get from that in chatting. Sometimes their conversation is steady, non-stop, yakety yak yak. I know the younger ones visit my camp because I saw them, 2 of them that year anyway. The first, which I feel was a female, was the size of a 12-year-old, slender and graceful. I saw her stand up from a crouch, fold her arms across her chest, and stand stock still. She was looking at something beside my tent. She was standing about 18 feet away from me in the shadows of the trees, but she was blacker than the shadows. I saw her outline clearly, but I could see no facial features. She stood there a minute or so, a long time, long enough to see what I was looking at. She was not muscular, large, or beefy. She looked like a scrawny teenager. She probably was. Then, smooth as smoke, she was gone. In the morning I saw that she had been looking at my grandson's bike. Oh, that chrome shining in the moonlight must have piqued her curiosity. What a wonder to behold. There were times she had 2 younger ones with her, a toddler and one the size of a 5-year-old child. I have good memories of that one, all right. I will tell another time. Now there is some foundation laid, I will get on with the main point. There are tribes on the Washington coast that tell tales of the Sasquatch coming down from the mountain to steal their women. At one time, probably the first time this happened, the tribal men got together and went up the mountain and rescued the women back. The next day the Sasquatch came. In broad daylight they came into the village, and every man found was picked up by the legs and torn in 2. Horrible. Understandably, the women that were stolen in the future were on their own. There were tales of one here and one there that escaped to return to their tribe, some pregnant, and they didn't seem to be restolen, oddly enough. Now, knowing most legends begin with a grain of truth, let's consider the probability that some of the Sasquatches today may have human genes in their genome makeup, some more than others. I'm only speculating on what sounds like common sense to me, but they may be slightly smaller and may have more intelligence, be able to reason better, and this may tone down some of the wild instinctual behaviors. Now, I'm not saying civilized as if we are, but able to think things through more than other Sasquatch. Some human genes might even make a change in their vocal cords, make them able to speak, pronounce words more like we do, which brings to mind the Planet of the Apes movies. Very rude of me, because I know the forest people are not apes. Indeed, they're not. And that movie freaks me out to this day. What I have to say now, mostly people will not believe. Understandable, that was my first thought too. The first summer I camped here at what came to be my favorite spot, the first week I heard people talking. Loud enough to know it sounded like people, but not enough to be clear. I could not make out any words, only male or female, vowels, consonants, and pausing in between. I could tell when a different voice spoke. Just like hearing conversation from afar. I thought it was coming from 5 miles straight up the mountain. There are tourist destinations up there, yes. I believe the sound traveled through all that forest and over the streams, and I could hear it. But I came to notice I only heard this about half an hour before dark. Then, when it was dark, I would hear the same thing coming from the creek below my tent. Not tourists. I could hear rocks hitting one another, chatting, and the slosh of walking in the water. Being smart, a tad scared but mostly excited, and knowing a flashlight would be the end of any sightings or experience to come, I stayed in camp and I stayed quiet. Just listening. Even though the voices were close, I could never make out the words. The sound of the water, and they spoke in quiet tones when closer to camp. What I heard was indiscernible. However, it was not long before I would hear whispering in my camp after I went to the tent at night. I don't know what that sound was. I would be reading with a small light on, and I could hear someone not far from the tent whispering back and forth. I invested in an audio recorder. I now have 6 years of 5 to 9 hour recordings that I listen to during the winter. I make notes of interest to be found later and put together someday. Whisperings, clinking of the water pots or pots and pans. They think my kitchen stuff is cool, and they go through my camp like it's a hands-on museum. No kidding. But always, everything is in its place when I get up in the morning. Nothing has ever been gone or missing. They are respectful in their snooping. But back to the recordings, I got the best last year. 2 of them stand out. They take the cake hands down. In the past, I've heard what sounded like English being whispered. While at camp alone one rainy night, the noise of rain on the tarps, I plainly heard, "But you have to be quiet or we'll hear you." So I replied, "But I already hear you," without thinking. A mistake. Nothing more was heard that night. Another time, while camping with 2 of my grandsons that were asleep, I was laying there listening to the soft crunch of leaves approaching the back of the tent. Then I hear a loud whisper, "One is still awake." I laid there with my eyes closed, listening to leaf crunch, and fell asleep. After each of these experiences, time went by, and it became easy for me to convince myself that I didn't really hear this. I imagined it, even though I've never before since imagined or heard voices that were not there, ever. That would be ridiculous, right? Speaking English. I'm sarcastically sure. Now, we come to the year before last, 2018. I had backed the truck up to 5 feet from my tent, the tailgate down for the water supply jug. In the back window, I have a bumper sticker that reads, "Bigfoot lives." Below that, I made another sign that says, Bigfoot lives. Below that, I made another sign that says matter. So Bigfoot lives matter is what is seen on my back window. Please note that I have since replaced that with a different bumper sticker because BLM belongs to another, more important group. I am camping with a grandson and his friend. They are both sound asleep, and I'm reading. It's a quiet night, no wind. I hear footsteps approaching the back of my truck quite nonchalantly. They are used to me now. They know I have never turned lights on them or come out without warning them first. They are standing right behind my truck, not 2 feet from the tent. I hear a male voice say, not whisper, but say in a normal voice, "That's what they call us, Bigfoot." When he says the word Bigfoot, his tone is snide, like he doesn't like it. What? I scream in my head, no freaking way, but I heard it plain as day. English loud and clear, speaking English, and wait, what does this mean? What does this mean? Some can read? Why else would he say this? No way, but I heard it, no mistaking. No rain, no wind, no rush of creek water. So this also makes me think the other times I thought I heard English were not mistaken or imagination. And the worst part, my recorder was in the truck not recording. I was too lazy to get up and out to get it after I forgot when I went to the tent. Never again. I promised myself never again will the recorder not be recording at night. Now I finally get to tell about last year, 2019. I got 2 recordings that made this all worthwhile. Hands down my best catch yet. Persistence pays off. I discovered last year that wearing my headphones while recording is fine entertainment while at camp. So I was sitting on the bank above the creek in total darkness, listening to the slosh of footsteps, the drip of water after they stepped up on my side, etc. I had just started a new recording when I hear 5 light knocks on a tree. I suppose it was knocks. I didn't see it, I just heard them. This was immediately followed by a loud whisper from a small voice that said, "Mommy." That little one sounded scared, so of course I had to say something. "It's fine, you're okay," I replied. "I need to stop doing that. I don't think they appreciate it, but I got it on record." Oh, happy day. This is in English. This is awesome. This also reconfirms the other times I heard English. The second recording I got a week or 2 later. I was camping with my granddaughter, who was asleep, of course. I was lying there listening with my headphones to the recorder placed in the back window of the tent. I listened to the footsteps come up behind my tent. I could tell when he or she squatted down, not 2 feet from my head. Judging by the voice, I think it was a preteen or older child before the voice matured enough to be deep. I think he forgot himself because he blurts out in a normal talking volume, "Are you shimshack?" Not English, but it sounds like, "Are you shimshack?" Then he pokes or moves my audio recorder, making an awfully loud, ugly sound through the headphones. So I tell him, "Nah, don't play with that." Then that was that. I have this on recording also. So now, after hearing these vocals and the whispering that has gone on in my camp for years from these creatures, I wonder why they sound so different from the Sierra Sound Sasquatch. Those recorded by Ron Moorhead don't sound like people at all. I've seen a few of these that visit my camp, and they look like the typical Sasquatch. I've seen 2 bigger ones with the coned head. They all seem to have long arms, the oddly placed thumbs I noticed from prints on my truck window, and no neck, etc. Well, we can't leave out the feet, which oddly enough seem to be proportionate to their size. But these Sasquatch may be smaller than those in California, and they seem to be able to speak easier. This is what made me think about their genes in the first place. Well, food for thought, as they say. I thank you for all you share, Bart, and I hope my experiences aren't too mundane for the viewers. I haven't had many scary times, and I've certainly never had to run for my life. I hope I never will have to, because that would never work for me, LOL. I'll write again soon about my times on the mountain. Okay. And then her next email, first vocals. "Hi Bart, I'll tell you about the first time I heard any vocals in my camp. This would be the first year camping alone at what came to be my favorite spot. I'd been there once the year before with a friend. I had no campfire. Fire season started early spring that year, so no other people around either. Being naive, I was camping alone. I was not really sure if Sasquatch was real or not. I thought I may have heard something the year before, but didn't know anything. So this was the beginning of my research. I was in my tent at night where most of my experiences happened. No fire, warm summer night. I was wide awake and it was quiet outside. And close by I heard a clicking sound. Have you seen that movie called Signs? Well, that is what popped in my head, that clicking sound, and I just about freaked. No, not aliens. I either said it or thought it really loud, because the second that thought was in my head, the sound changed. Now this is weird. I've never heard anyone mention anything like this, so I haven't told a lot of people. Water. The sound turned into the sound of the bubbling creek right there in my camp. No kidding, this is fair dinkum, I tell you. I don't know what that word means, but that's what she wrote. And yeah, it helped. For some reason, that changed, reassured me that this was not aliens in my camp. For some reason, it didn't occur to me that aliens could do that too. Ha ha. Sometimes I embarrass myself, so. This was not the only time I heard this babbling, gurgling creek talk. I called it water talk. I must have heard it a few times anyway before my brother came to camp with me. My brother is an archaeologist, very science-minded, needs physical proof, etc. Does not believe in Sasquatch or any other cryptid. So we had been out shooting, hiking that day, and we got back to camp and ate. Next thing we know, it's late. One of the things I like to do for fun is walk about with no flashlight in the dark. So off we go across the meadow, then down the road to the bridge. We wound up laying on the bridge head to head, looking at stars, and I began hearing the brush below us moving around. I want to mention that I am on the end of the bridge. My legs are where the bank below is sloped up to the road, so that someone climbing up that slope to the road is pretty close to me. Although my legs are on the bridge, we are laying next to the edge. So hearing the brush moving, Jeff and I stopped talking and just listened. I swear I felt something on my leg. I'm in shorts, and you know how it feels when the dog smells your bare skin? That is what I felt. Slight air sniffing. I stayed frozen. Then we both hear that water sound. Yes, we are above the creek, but this is close. Then we hear it very clearly, and so I tried to copy what I heard. At the same time, Jeff is telling me, don't try. He knows me. As soon as I stop, there is a little voice doing the same sounds we just heard. The same sounds I just tried mimicking. Like it was showing me how to do it right. That didn't last long. I think that little one was shushed just as I was shushed. So after a while of silence, we got up and left. As soon as we were off the bridge, I asked Jeff, so you heard it too? He said, I don't know what I heard. He's been camping with me a few times since then. I think I'll ask him if Sasquatch are real next time I talk to him. Okay, so I told you about the young one. I think she was a female. She had little ones with her sometimes. I think of her as a babysitter because she wasn't much bigger than my 12-year-old grandson at the time. Well, I was in my ha-ha yes tent. It was night and I'm awake. By this time I knew there were Sasquatch. I knew they were real. I had seen her, I'd smelled her. She smelled like fir sap pitch and good old dirt, like garden dirt. Not much agate to be found, so when I did see a nice large agate, I brought it to camp. Feeling a tad guilty, maybe this was the only hard rock they had to work with. I put my hiking boots on top of it before I went to the tent. This agate is about 6 by 4 and about 1 inch thick. I purposely sort of hid it. 6 inches by 4 inches. So I'm in my tent and I can smell that she is around, and I hear a weird sound that takes me a minute. So in the back corner of my tent, a slapping. It's my boot laces. Someone has picked up my boot and is slapping the corner of the tent with the laces. That's what it sounded like. I was excited to realize this. How fun. Then after that, I hear another sound coming from the other end of my tent. This is where I tied the rain fly up high to my laundry line to let air flow through the window there. It's a boinging sound. Along with that, I can see the tent moving a bit. Ripples along the wall. Someone is pulling on that fly cord, then releasing it. Now, these are not anything I have experienced before. Other than picking up the lid of my water pot or the coffee can lid, my stuff has not been messed with before. So I'm wondering what the heck is going on. Then I see him. I feel it was a him. About as big as my 5-year-old, like my granddaughter at that time. He jogs past the front of my tent. I see him clearly. He slaps the peak of the rain cover on his way by. Oh, how he made me laugh. Relief is what I felt. That explains it all. It's a kid. So I had to tell him, hey, I just saw you. You're busted. Fun times, man, fun times. Well, I'm glad someone's having fun times with these things, because I never did. All of my family and my experiences were frightening and terrible. So I hope I haven't repeated myself, as this is one of the better times I've had. The Sasquatch have grown since then, and certainly aren't as much fun as they used to be. Best I can hope for is that they remember me and know that no harm comes from me. Just 1 second, guys. Hey, sorry about that. Raindrops are falling all down on top of me from the trees every time the wind blows, so just bear with me, guys. 1 foot away, I thought of another time I'd like to tell you about. I was camping at my favorite spot. It is at the edge of a meadow near a creek that is down a fairly steep bank, with an alder forest and a few young fir trees that are all around this small meadow. I was camping with my grandson. He is 12 or 13 at the time. He has always been a busy boy and either thoughtless or fearless. Very impulsive, he seems to be afraid of nothing except the dark. Now, I have tried to get him over this. We went for a walk down a very dark road close by our house with no flashlights on. I wanted him to see how his eyes will adjust to the dark. It just takes some time. Well, after coming to a spot to sit off the road, I let him use the night scope. The first thing he sees is a cougar weaving its head back and forth for focus. It was behind a bush 15 feet away. So much for Dylan getting used to the dark. Dang. So as the sun went down at camp, he wanted to go to the tent. I suggested the truck. That's where I go when spooked, but he insisted on being in the tent. We have a good ceiling light I place in the net there, so we play cards a while. Then we decided we wanted to switch to dice. The dice are in my truck. I need to mention this first. This time I had put the tent up facing the opposite way from normal. It was backwards. Also, by this time I knew not to turn flashlights on the Sasquatch, not to look at them when I hear a noise in the trees. I don't point at them, and I was learning to warn them before busting out the tent. But not so much warning at this time. I unzipped the door and was just straightening up from bent over going through the door. When I went around the corner of the tent, I immediately saw the dark form swiftly coming my way, and there was nothing either of us could do but continue. I kept my eyes on the ground like no big deal and kept walking. I did say quietly to it, "No worries, just getting dice from the truck." It happened so fast, and the thing is, this is what they always do. My tent usually faces the other direction. It was acting on instinct, and I just didn't think about any of that when I headed out to the tent. Okay, apologies for that, my friends. Google just informed me that I ran out of storage space again, and they want more money. So I had to go home and free up some space. And now I'm back, and I just want to say that this Melissa Coynan, we've been talking for a long time, and I know she's for real. These stories that I read to you are not for entertainment. I put the entertainment part at the beginning, the creek walking. So I hope you guys enjoy that. But what I read to you about inhumanoids, it's all true and it's all educational. So keep that in mind, please. Getting back to Melissa's story. When I told my daughter about this, she asked me why I didn't look at it. The answer is simple. I act like they are no big deal. I don't spotlight them by staring, pointing, or shining a light on them. I do talk to them as if they were no big deal. Even with that, they will leave or I will hear nothing the rest of the night. But this is the closest I think I've ever been, and yes, it was a thrill. I was just listening to Paranormal Roundtable, episode 136, and you're talking about the researchers that ignore anything they hear that they have not heard themselves or that fit in their box, so to speak. I call it narrow-minded. I do too. And when I told you about the water talk, I know it sounded weird, and yes, so hard to believe, but I just need to think, whatever, that doesn't hurt me. I just tell the truth like you do. Congrats to you. Hats off to you. I wish everybody did that. So here I have another unbelievable but true thing that happened. Excuse me. Except for that one time on the backside of the mountain when I heard that long call, I have never heard Sasquatch roar or holler. Only a few times I may have heard them wood knock, if what they do is actually knocking on wood. But what I have heard so many times is owl calls. The barred owl specifically. Who cooks for you? Yes, I've heard that too thousands of times. And usually they're barred owls. I don't think that every barred owl that I hear is a Bigfoot, but I know they mimic every animal in the forest. So maybe 2 years into this researching, I had recorded owl calls on a thumb drive that I could play on my truck stereo. And by the way, you guys let me know how good this microphone's working, if it's working at all. I hope you guys can hear me. I don't much care for playing Bigfoot calls from Sierra sounds. I did try it once or twice, but I don't know what I'm saying to them by playing these, and I don't do wood knocks. That feels like I'm trying to trick them, if that is what they do to communicate. But owl calls I have done many times, so have I. After all, owls do it. So one evening, when this owl calling was new to me, I played an owl call in camp. It sounded so easy. When it was done, I tried doing it myself. Ha ha. Well, it sounded really bad. Really bad. So I cut it off mid-call. Immediately from the creek below my camp, I hear laughing. It sounds like a kid. Then the kid proceeds to mimic me by doing a bad call, then really exaggerating the badness and laughing about it. It was almost dark by then, so I could see nothing. Again, I knew I was the only one around, people-wise. Believe it or not, I was embarrassed by a Sasquatch kid, no kidding. But there's more about the owl calls. There was one, I think it was a young teenage one, that used to respond to my owl recordings from wherever he was. It was really cool. Then after a season or two of this game with him, I discovered some owl calls that sounded like a bunch of baby owls squawking. I have learned since that then this is the female barred owl, as I actually saw the female doing this. Lately I've been calling in owls with these recordings on backup, the higher elevations of the mountain. These recordings on back up to higher elevations of the mountain, okay, where I usually camp. I have not seen owl, one, or chipmunks, or squirrels. I wonder why. I'm sure you can guess. Deer, elk, birds are plentiful. But anyway, the first time I played this new call, I got response in the same call. Now I know this is no owl because this guy ends his owl calls with a hoo yeah. A perfect owl imitation, just ending with a hoo yeah. So that's what I call him, hoo yeah. I think he may have heard this hoo yeah from a hunter that got a kill, but I don't know. One of the recordings from a camp night, I can hear this Sasquatch repeating this over and over, like he was practicing hoo yeah. Coming from the woods as he made his way past our camp and continued on. So from this point on, he did the squawking babies or the female owl call. One day, one day, two of my grandkids, the dog and I, were standing around camp. It was the middle of the afternoon when we hear a regular owl call from the woods on the other side of the meadow, a small meadow. Then, as it continued to call, another started up. When the third joined in, we all stopped talking to listen. Then number 4 starts up doing the squawking call. All of them went on another 15 to 20 seconds, then all of them stopped at once. Man, I felt like a standing ovation. It was like a concert. Drake, my grandson, looks at me and says, "That was no owl. Drake has been with me camping since year 1, but always being asleep during the action. He says he doesn't believe in Sasquatch." Well, at that time he didn't. Funny thing is, I know that they have seen him and his cousin sleeping in the bed of my truck. But that is a time to tell of another day. I better go get something done. Have a great day, Bart. Hey, you have a great day too, Melissa. And, oh my goodness, she's written me since then, and let's just say I'm going to have to do another video with Melissa's experiences. So, that's going to be it for today, guys. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for spending some time here at my channel. Really appreciate you. We love you. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. Also share if you like. So until next time, guys, have a great day. God bless, and remember, be nice to each other, okay? Too much meanness in the world, too much sadness. Concentrate on being nice. Thanks, guys. See you next time.